Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
Man, Red Wings home openers do not miss. Without fail, they are always absolutely unreal, blow the roof off the building. We had the Mantha 4 goals, the Bertuzzi 4 goals, and the Larkin punch and everything. And then this one, Soderblom's first career goal in his first career game, and it's the Red Wings' first goal of the season to kick off what is Soderblom's season. And that's not even half the stories that have happened at home openers. They are guaranteed entertainment. It is the safest ticket in hockey.
I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can lie to the players all year so that they have, 41 home openers.
Just put
well, they've had two, one at home and one away.
That's right. Just put them in like with birds. You know how you put a blanket over their cage and they think it's nighttime? Just trick them that way. Just be like, okay, we're now here for another home opener. Yeah, the NHL's just doing it this way this year. All the NHL himbos are like, okay. Soderblom goes and scores again. They did. I mean, he played just the same the next day, or the next game too. Yeah, the next day. Yeah, the Red Wings season kicked off. We knew it was coming this way. Like we were saying last episode and in the entire offseason, like this is going to be the most exciting, interesting Red Wings season since starting this podcast. Almost, we're getting closer to 8 years now. And the atmosphere in the LCA was the biggest confirmation of that we could ever have had. Detroit Red Wings fans constantly remind us why they're the best in hockey. And oh man, that was, I always tell people when we meet them in person, like we love like doing meetups, we love going to games, we love chatting with the listeners because it just re-energizes us, just right?
Not everyone look at us all at the same time.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's the key.
But we talk to them and we're like, it does re-energize us and it gives us like the fuel to do the show, and it kind of justifies all the work that goes into like a long off season. And I walked away from that home opener buzzing. Like it was absolutely unreal.
It was a ton of fun as per usual. And I echo everything you just said. Even I was excited after the game. So that says something.
If Evan has a pep in his step, it was a good game.
That's right.
All right, folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the first episode after the new Detroit Red Wings 2022-2023 season has started. Here to talk to you about all things Red Wings hockey, the world of the NHL, and the truth that is Elmer Soderblom. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we are going to be recapping the home opener, talking about the impact that Elmer Soderblom has made on these Red Wings right off the bat, as well as the rest of his Redwoods, Triple XL, whatever we're going to call that line. We're going to be recapping the entire game, talking about some key moments, as well as Detroit's next game against New Jersey, what Ned did for the team. Veleno came out, Suter went in, and then a pretty rough injury to Tyler Bertuzzi as well. We'll be talking about what that means for Filip Zadina, Pius Suter, and then maybe some NHL stories before jumping into overtime. Before that, I want to talk to everyone about Wings, Money on the Board, and specifically Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the LCA. I had so many people come up to me and tell me how great it was to see and meet us and connect again. I know we had a lot of familiar faces there, and one way you can do that and enjoy a Red Wings game is through Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the LCA on Saturday, October 29th. It's the game against Minnesota. What that is, it's a partnered event with the Detroit Red Wings, so we team up with them. It is our third time doing it. They are fantastic partners to work with and have generously worked with us to secure the Hockeytown Cafe space to accommodate the many hundreds of you who have bought tickets to this event. We're going to be recording a live podcast featuring Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond. There's going to be a meet and greet with the hosts, but more importantly, the special guests. There's going to be giveaways, merch, prizes. There's going to be hopefully some more special guests coming through, food and drinks available for you to buy. And it's going to be a more spacious, multi-level space with, it's all indoors, so you don't have to worry about the elements this time. The ticket gets you not only entry to the event, but also to the Red Wings game, and they're discounted. It's a special Winged Wheel Podcast discount. It is the cheapest way you'll find those tickets. We just added more tickets by demand into the lower bowl and upper bowl, so we have lower and upper bowl tickets available. The gondola is completely sold out. That's all Winged Wheel Podcast fans up there. And you get to sit with your fellow listeners, Red Wings fans, enjoy the game, and it'll be a blast. So DetroitRedWings.com/WWP to secure your tickets, and most importantly, a portion of the proceeds from every ticket sold benefits the Jamie Daniels Foundation.
I know people have one of the questions that is frequently asked is, if I'm a season ticket holder or I already have tickets to the game, can I still come? And the answer is obviously yes.
Yeah. If you're a season ticket holder, what we do is we just ask that you go to justgiving.com/Wings Money on the Board. And if you're able, you consider making a donation of any size to the Wings Money on the Board campaign to raise money for the Jamie Daniels Foundation. But yes, if you have season tickets, you can come through. If you don't have tickets yet, we encourage you to get it through the DetroitRedWings.com/WWP link. Okay, let's kick this off. The Red Wings versus the Montreal Canadiens home opener was, the Red Wings got off to a hot start. What do they have, like 25 shots in the first period?
Correct, yes.
So they didn't finish the game with 75 shots, but still more or less dominated that entire game. And it must have been a few minutes in before we looked at each other and we went, yeah, Elmer Soderblom he fits in. He looks like an NHLer. Through the spoiler, through 2 games, he looked like an NHLer. I don't see him going down until he shows us anything different, but that line between him, Rasmussen, and Sundqvist looked fantastic out there.
Yeah, we talked about that line before the season started about, their potential in the offensive zone to be able to, run a pretty dominant cycle because of their size and their skill. And they might struggle through transition a little bit just because none of them are particularly great at that. And what we learned very quickly is that didn't matter that much because as soon as that puck crossed the blue line, it was never leaving. It was theirs until they determined otherwise. And it was the first couple shifts right away. They dominated Montreal down low. I know Soderblom had that one sequence, which I don't remember the last time I saw a guy just run a cycle that elicited we'll call it an extreme fan reaction. But when he held it off from that one guy for a bunch of seconds and then kind of looked like he ran into a bad spot and pulled it through his own legs, turned the other way and kept going. It was
rookies aren't, 6th or 7th round picks are not supposed to be able to do that.
He did that on his second NHL shift, his second or third shift. You're not even supposed to think of doing that at that point, whether you're picked in the 6th round or 1st overall. And he's out there doing that. It was, that line, this was the path to success, and to see him execute it so, I don't even know how to call it, thoroughly.
Yeah.
Right from the first shift. I know it was Montreal and New Jersey, not the biggest, defensive stalwarts in the NHL. We'll see what happens when they get to better teams. But they, for lack of a better term, look like men amongst boys when they got possession in the O-zone.
Yeah, I was laughing as we were leaving the game. I said, bless the NHL for giving Detroit the Montreal Canadiens to start, because they are a bad team. It's very easy to see how they're a bad team. There were no goals until near the end of the game because of Jake Allen, and that's it. But still, they did dominate. And no discredit to Rasmussen and Sundqvist. They played great. I think they deserve a lot of credit. We just put out that little
I will
clip.
listen to no Michael Rasmussen slander.
We just put out our little clip of how Rasmussen has excelled, and I think he continued that. All 3 of them were probably Detroit's best, definitely Detroit's best line, and playing half the minutes of some other players. But it's not like Soderblom came in and played with Larkin or Bertuzzi or Raymond or Vrana or someone else where they could really drive the line and elevate the game. He had to earn his keep. And I know Derek Lalonde put that line together to say, we're not sheltering. This is a test. You have to play. Brad, you talked a lot last episode about these lines. These lines are themed. These lines have a purpose. You just talked about how they dominate physically, off the cycle, etc. And he put him out there with no kind of sheltering. And he executed thoroughly. You're right.
Yeah, I think, if you're going to assemble a line like that, that's a cycle-driven type line, Montreal's the team to do it against, because they don't really scream possession to me. They try to play off transition, and they're very good at that. But if there's any line that can expose that weakness, it was certainly that line. So kudos to the coaching staff for putting that line together. I know I wasn't the most thrilled with Zadina out and thinking he should be in Sundqvist's spot, but hey, no complaints after the first 2 games with that line. They've been excellent.
the way Little Caesars Arena exploded when Soderblom scored. People knew instantly.
I mean, how could you not?
Oh my God.
Yeah, like obviously Soderblom scoring it adds that extra little to it, but that was one of those games, not too dissimilar. If you remember when we were at the game 3 against Tampa in the last time the Red Wings were in the playoffs, where Detroit dominated the first 2 periods, but Athanasiou didn't get the first goal till late in the second. There were so many chances that the roof was ready to blow at any point, and it just took so long. This was one of those games. Like Detroit should have been up 4-5-0 going into the third period, and Jake Allen had one of the best goaltending performances I've ever seen live. Like it was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the puck finally went in, obviously the entire place was ready to blow. And then when everybody realized pretty quickly it was Soderblom, it just added that extra little bit of energy to it. And man, I've missed that feeling.
You just know that the Red Wings are going to have more of that. Even like, it's not a packed house the way the Joe used to be. I think we have a while yet before we get there. But even like, you can tell that was way closer to a true sellout crowd. Like, you can sell out, but capacity in the arena is something different. It was a lot more full. It is, we're getting back to the kind of buzz and excitement around a successful Red Wings team. Red Wings fans have always been a very smart crowd, so they can sense what's happened in the offseason. And to see them all there, embrace that, and the fact that they got the show is excellent. You talked about Jake Allen being absolutely unreal all game. It's hysterical because through all this, Ville Husso got a shutout in his Red Wings debut. He was rock solid.
Montreal only had 2 high danger scoring chances the whole game.
Yeah, semantics.
But one of them was a 10 bell fire alarm when it came off the backboards and Josh Anderson was staring at an empty net, and Husso was able to get back in position and glove it. I mean, he didn't have to do much that game, but he was solid. The one thing I really noticed with Husso that it's been a long, long time since we've seen this style from a Red Wings goalie. He really doesn't overcommit. Mm-hmm. A lot of pucks were hitting him in the chest.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about this, obviously not to the same level, but we've talked about this a lot with Carey Price, where he's the most boring best goalie.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have to make crazy circus saves because he's always square to the puck. Even when moving east to west, he can, shuffle across the crease, get in position, and then he doesn't have to make a flashy glove save or a big stick save because he's there and it just hits him in the chest. Husso did that a lot Friday night. He was making what probably were more difficult saves than we would think watching. And yeah, he was calm. He was there. He did everything he needed to do. And at no point did he look rattled or did it look like Montreal was actually going to score outside of, like I said, that one that banked off the backboards.
Other storylines I felt were important in that game is we saw the nastiness of Ben Chiarot right away. Him and Perron, I felt it was very clear the kind of MO they have on the ice, which is just piss off the other players and then remind them that they will get punched in the face if they retaliate. Kirby Dach and Moritz Seider continuing to have a history. It goes back to, I think they had a Traverse City tournament.
The very
blew
first
up
game.
Dach in
Yeah.
that first game.
And obviously there's the draft context where Dach went, well above Seider in the context of like the top 10. Seider obviously turning out to be the steal of that draft and Dach being an altogether disappointment so far. And then Seider blowing up Dach on multiple occasions, I'm pretty sure. And then Dach held Seider's stick and was going after him. And actually, Seider was getting on the bench and Dach shoved him in, which every neutral observer I've talked to about that has been like, okay, that's low-key hilarious.
Oh, it's objectively funny.
It is. I will say, and like, I'm not trying to be like a little whiny baby here. It is pretty dangerous. Like, if you get shoved onto
my
God. No.
Not
Ryan, no.
Anyways,
No.
Here's why I think we should call the police.
You've filed the class action lawsuit. Who's signing with me? There's dozens of us.
It's okay. Mo got Doc back a couple shifts later. That's fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you just, rather than being whiny about it, I'm just going to enjoy every time Detroit and Montreal play. Even if it's like the most bottom-feeding game of all time, those two are going to be going at it. And they're just two behemoths fighting. It's going to be fun. The Red Wings ended up taking the win 3-0. The other 2 goals were both empty netters. Rasmussen got one, which was Copp's first point as a Red Wing and Larkin's first point of the season. And then sniper, absolute automatic goal scorer, Olli Maatta, got one, and then Rasmussen added his second assist, and Sundqvist also added his second assist. So 3 points for Rasmussen, 2 points for Sundqvist. First goal as a Red Wing for Mata, first point as a Red Wing for Copp, and Elmer Söderblom, first goal of his career for the Red Wings and of the Red Wings season.
A night of firsts.
Yeah.
Do you know the level of respect I have for Ole Mata for going bar down on an empty net from the red line?
Just ripper. Just like, that's the spirit of Mark Stahl. Just straight, hair slicked back, no helmet. Oh, man. We were talking to Max and Prashanth before the game, and Max was like, who do you think has the first goal? And was it you who said Mata?
No, that was Prashanth.
Prashanth said Mata, and I said Soderblom, and I was like, oh, just kidding. It'll be Bertuzzi. And I hate myself for saying just kidding. But yeah, Prashanth, and Prashanth was kind of half right with that Mata call, as we all expected.
Yes.
How that game finished.
Offensive dynamo.
Very quickly before I move on to the New Jersey game, that moment where they showed Vladdy on the screen, that was like, how can you not be romantic about hockey?
Red Wings say they had it all lined up.
Oh, God.
Soderblom gets his first goal, all the first. They got Vladdy in attendance, pan to him. They knew what they were doing that night.
That Vladdy chant boomed through your chest. The crowd went nuts. And I went back home after and I listened to it on the broadcast, and you could hear it so clearly on the broadcast. And Mick said it best. Mick was like, I love that guy. We all do. The Red Wings, after opening on at home, they went on the road the next day to play New Jersey. And to me, this was a bit of a different game. The outcome was not. The Red Wings ultimately won 5-2, but this was a game where I felt New Jersey, honestly, on balance, was the better team. When it mattered, no. And that's the difference, because I think Ned kept them in it, and Detroit was a lot more, they converted on their opportunities with fewer chances, I felt. But yeah, New Jersey opened the scoring. It was a goal that I think Ned would probably want back. It wasn't the best goal. And we've kind of seen that from Ned, where he comes in cold and he's not hot right off the start, but for the rest of the game, he was unreal. Massive key saves and kept Detroit in it. At one point it was 2-2, and I was like, this should be a 5-2 game for New Jersey. But Ned kept them in. But yeah, ultimately Detroit ended up winning 5-2. And what I first want to talk about is that was the second test for Soderblom. Looked just as good in my mind.
Oh, yeah, he was great. Again, we're establishing pretty quickly who and what he is as a player, and he has the full confidence in himself to not change. He's not trying to do anything outside of his strengths, which is good, because we've talked about this in previous years with Rasmussen in the exact same, hey, man, we know what you're good at. Do that. Just do it to the best of your ability. And Soderblom's doing that. He's, got soft hands, great off the cycle, nose for the net. Like, he's not going out there and trying to establish himself as this goon, this physical presence. He's not. He's never been. He's not going to throw a ton of hits. He's not going to be a guy, the burner through the neutral zone. And it's good, because now he can play within his strengths. And the key to a rookie doing that is he's more comfortable. It's already uncomfortable for a rookie or any player to jump a level of hockey, especially when it's, this significant. So the fact he's able to do that, the fact Lalonde's letting him do that, the fact that his line mates are supporting him in doing that, this is the recipe for how to develop a rookie.
That line again was great. I thought Rasmussen had another strong game, and Sundqvist as well. It's funny because the previous episode, I said it's probably going to be Sundqvist who comes out, if anyone does. Maybe Ernie, but it'd probably be Sundqvist who comes out in favor of Suter and or Zadina. There's no way they were going to pull apart that line after the first game.
I told you they wouldn't, even before the game happened.
I gotta
if they win and play well, there's no chance that lineup changes.
I have to stop questioning you. Next time I do that, just remind me of this moment.
You can just call me the hockey guru.
I won't be doing that.
Okay.
I'm going to call you whatever I call you in our group chat when you don't answer me.
I wouldn't even know, because I don't look at it.
Yeah, they kept that line together. In the end, Veleno came out. He didn't have the best opening game against Montreal. He looked a bit, Brad, you were saying before the show, a little bit hesitant, a little bit like he was nervous to make mistakes, which is a theme we've seen in the past with Veleno. As much as I wanted him to stay in, I couldn't disagree with the call to take him out. But he came out and Suter came in. Zadina stayed off the roster. And I think that's a direct result of the kind of impact Sundqvist had and that line had. Ernie, I think maybe could have, but again, there's only so much movement you're going to make after a pretty dominant win. So Veleno came out, Suter went in, and then I also felt that this was a game where the Red Wings new guys settled in a lot better. I think in the first game, Perron was a little bit iffy on the power play. He had some whiffs.
He had I'll just say he had a pretty poor game overall. He was not impressive, but obviously he remedied that Saturday night.
Yeah. I thought Chiarot and Seider were working out the kinks of being a defensive partner, which is very natural for a brand new pairing.
We saw the best and worst of Chiarot in that game.
And I thought they were much better against New Jersey. I think Larkin looked better as well. Obviously, he had the goal. But yeah, altogether, it was just this felt like more of a feeling things out and getting settled game. The Red Wings opened scoring with Ben Chiarot, who pretty much just fired one from the point and went through traffic. Vanacek never saw it. And then Vrana he was sent on a break by Lucas Raymond.
That pass,
it was yeah, that was a sick pass.
Yeah.
The only thing better than that pass was the shot.
Oh my God, man. So it's like a video game.
You could just take shooters in the NHL of various ability and how many goals they've scored historically, and just not tell people watching how Ovechkin how many goals he scored, or Vrana how many goals he scored, and just line random guys up. You would be able to tell who the 30, 40, 50 goal scorers are, because when Vrana releases the puck, it's different. It is at a different tier than the average NHL player. Even the above average good shooters, it's at a different level.
I was talking to a friend of mine today who's a Devils fan, and we were
My
talking.
God,
Yeah,
my God.
we were,
How?
I don't know, but we were
between drags of the 3 cigarettes he was smoking at the same time.
And we were talking about the game, and his first thought was, Vanacek probably should have had 2 or 3 of the Red Wings goals, if we're being honest. It was good for the Red Wings to get the chances to capitalize on them, but the difference we already alluded to from the Nedeljkovic side of things in this game was goaltending.
Yeah.
And that was equal parts Nedeljkovic, equal parts Vanacek. But even he said, he's like, there's not a goalie in this league who is stopping the Vrana goal. Nobody on the face of this earth is stopping that puck.
It was like when you play an NHL, like one of the NHL video games, and then a player shoots and you're like, oh, this is when you realize it's a video game, because the puck doesn't flutter. It just seems like it fires off his stick at 1,000,000 miles an hour on a frozen rope top corner, and it just
and then the net light's on fire.
Yeah, and it's the perfect shot, and then that's exactly what Jacob Vrana does when he shoots. That angle, he went short side on it. What a freak. Who does that? That guy has all the makings of scoring however many goals.
If he's going to get passes like that right into the wheelhouse, he's going to score a lot of goals.
He's going to the amount of opportunities he's going to convert on is going to be unreal. And it's just fully going to depend on how many opportunities he gets through health and through his line mates. And I think the first thing is the biggest barrier. Evan, you're right.
He just has to stay healthy.
He has all the makings of a 40-goal scorer in this league. He really does. Perron also scored his first goal with the Red Wings in that game. He was in the right place, right time for a rebound. That was right before the Vrana goal. Miles Wood scored 10 seconds after Vrana, then Perron after, and then Dylan Larkin got the pass in front off a kind of broken play by New Jersey and made no mistake, beat the buzzer. I think under a second left, and that goal call was legendary by Ken. It felt like the LCA. And that was great. And that was to give Detroit a 4-2 lead going into the third. And again, on a game where I felt New Jersey was really leading it in terms of dominating play and controlling the chances, that was a dagger. That was a very, very key goal, both Perron's and Larkin's, to put Detroit up 2 goals. And then in the third period was Kubalik, who got a soft little pass. It was a very deft touch from Raymond in front. It's almost deceptive how nice that pass was. It needed a very delicate touch. Brad, you're forward. You know how that's not as easy as it looks.
That's a pure timing play.
Yeah.
Because not only when you have the defenseman skating in stride with you, it presents a couple challenges. One, his stick's obviously going to be coming for you, so you have to navigate that. But when a player is skating and they're gliding next to you, their feet they're not beside each other. And, most hockey players have pretty big size 10, 11, 12 skates, and you put them parallel to each other plus the stick, it does not leave a lot of options there. And he was able to toe drag it into his body just a little bit to avoid the defender's stick. And then I can't remember if he tapped it under the triangle of the stick or actually fed it through the defender's legs. But either way, not a rocket of a pass, because he had to time it to when Kubalik was coming through. Because if he just hammers that, he's putting it 2 feet in front of Kubalik, and that puck just trails off into nowhere. So he had to time it so that Kubalik could skate into it. And, again, it's just those things that separate a great hockey player from a good hockey player, where he's able to process all those things in a fraction of a second in order to execute the play. That's
a hockey IQ pass.
Yeah.
And, talk about good passes. I shouldn't have called the Larkin buzzer beater a broken New Jersey play. It was really Copp with a fantastic play off the wall to set Larkin up, showing what Copp can do offensively there. And Kubalik's finish, was great. It was nice to see, and that was Kubalik's first official regular season goal with the Red Wings as well.
I mean, backhands are underrated because they're tough for a goalie to read, and I like that he didn't try to overthink it or wait too long. But Vanacek should have had that. That's a stoppable puck.
So through the first 2 games, these Red Wings scored their first goals with Detroit. Elmer Söderblom, also the first goal of his career. Olli Maatta, Ben Chiarot, David Perron, Dominik Kubalik, Copp with 2 assists, and Ville Husso in his Red Wings debut got himself the shutout. We said before, it wasn't a perfect weekend for the new guys. You could see the growing pains that we've talked about all offseason. It's going to take time for them to settle in, but to go through growing pains through your first 2 games, not a bad result. Pretty good. Elmer Söderblom, first star of his first ever game, and then it was Nedeljkovic, who was the first star of the New Jersey game. So Detroit 2-0, Derek Lalonde undefeated. The Red Wings are undefeated as of recording right now. I don't care if you're listening after the LA Kings game. The Red Wings are undefeated in the Derek Lalonde era.
Derek Lalonde had a really good weekend.
He did.
Really good weekend. He got the big win in his first ever game on Friday night. Followed it up with not the shining example of a game, but we didn't even mention that the Red Wings won the second of a back-to-back with travel.
Yep.
Which is not easy, especially for a coach trying to get his team prepared for that. Little easier early in the season than late in the season. But he did a good job of that, and they went out and still got the win. And then on Sunday, Derek Lalonde, big Buffalo Bills guy, gets the victory over the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, you and Derek are kin that way.
Newsy's my guy now. I don't care what roster decisions he makes. I'm all in on this guy.
Brad's all of a sudden the softest on his podcast, and the coach.
Right,
we wonder why. Yeah, so Ned, Larkin, and Chiarot were the 3 stars of that game. And Ned, I really want to give him credit. He had a great showing. I think he ended up stopping 37 pucks overall on 39 shots. Again, that's a lot of opportunities from New Jersey. So not the easiest start for him with a goal he'd probably want back, but him and Husso, again, looked good this weekend, and that's what Detroit needs. If Detroit wants to move up the standings, what they have to do is they have to win the games where the other team is beating themselves.
Yeah, when you have bad goaltending at the other end, capitalize. There is some vindication here because I think we had that conversation in the Metro preview where I'm like, I'm not sold on the Devils because they look like a really good team who's going to be sewered by goaltending.
And so, I now look like an idiot after one game. We know.
It's only one game and a lot can change. But I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this is kind of what we were expecting from them. Look good, still lose. But, the first... I forget who released it, but goals saved above expected for the NHL got released today. Ned's 10th. He's only played one game.
One game, he has around 2.5 goals saved above expected?
Yeah.
For one game, that's
a phenomenal game. It's
big stop the count energy.
Yeah.
I was talking to the guys about this. Not a big subscriber in the theory of my GM is bad because he didn't make the same good moves as other GMs. There are 32 teams in the league, an infinite amount of variations of trades, phone conversations that can lead to trades, the kind of opportunities that come up. It's literally so silly as one GM happened to run into another GM in the hallway and a trade can transpire that way. I never begrudge a GM, or I very rarely begrudge a GM for not doing something that another team did. You just don't know all the nuance to it. If the Red Wings, and it's a big if the Red Wings have a good season from Husso and Nedeljkovic, there are going to be a lot of teams with fans who I think are going to be justifiable in saying, why didn't my GM make either of those moves?
Toronto?
Well, the rumor was Husso was Toronto's guy before Detroit got him. Like, that's one of the reasons why Detroit was willing to give up, we'll quote unquote, a premium asset just to get his rights to get ahead of him and sign him, was because there was obviously numerous teams, but apparently Toronto was very hot to trot. And instead they ended up with Matt Murray, who's always been a consistent picture of health and is now out on the LTIR.
And I said he may as well cut his left arm off because he has no glove hand. I was only joking.
Yeah, he's already on IR. I mean, I think it worked out for them because they were able to call up Robertson and Simmons and saved them some cap space, but
neither of those are goalies.
May as well be.
David Ayers is coming down.
He's apparently coaching now and somewhere in Northern Ontario, I'm pretty sure. So that's the Red Wings.
That was the SPHL.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
So that's the Red Wings' first two games. They have another one before next episode. That is Monday night at home at Little Caesars Arena versus the LA Kings at 7 Eastern. So there will be 3 games played by the time we chat next. Next episode's coming Wednesday. Great start, though. This is exactly what we wanted to see from the Red Wings. And honestly, the schedule through October, I don't want to say it's easy because it's not, but, Chicago, Anaheim, those are teams where Detroit should take the competition to them. New Jersey, again, they'll have to show up better, I think. They can't really rely on the goalie bailing them out. Boston and Minnesota may be tough ones, although Minnesota, I could score on them right now. And then Buffalo on the 31st. So Detroit, they have a schedule where they can really, it's not just about results and getting the wins, but they can ramp up in terms of getting their pairings, getting their lines felt out, everything like that.
They can do it at like a comfortable pace. It's not like, we're playing 4 games in 8 days. Like, it's a very comfortable pace. They can get some reps in at practice. They can do it in an organic, nicely paced manner.
It's not like the past couple seasons where it was like the Red Wings haven't practiced in 46 days. Dylan Larkin has 7 hernias.
I mean, the Red Wings had a pretty favorable schedule to start last season, too.
I get with the details, Brad. God, this guy.
Well, they got the WWP night against Minnesota. I was talking about goals saved above expected. Marc-Andre Fleury is currently the worst goalie in the league at already a nearly -6.
Keep it up, Mark. We need you on the 29th.
Yeah, just like, Marc-Andre Fleury, great guy. Really hope he has a good final couple seasons here. But if he wants to just hold out on this pace for another 2-3 weeks, that'd be fine.
That'd be awesome. Okay, let's talk about the unfortunate story from the New Jersey Devils game. Tyler Bertuzzi took a shot to the hand / forearm and left the game quickly, did not return. Based on what we saw, how quickly we left the game, how quickly he left the game, the kind of pain he was in, and how the puck hit him, how kind of cagey the Red Wings were about talking about it after and what we're hearing, this looks like he's going to miss some time.
Yeah, I'm no doctor, but that looks like a severe ouchie.
When we said
why would he do that?
Block the shot?
Why would he hurt himself? Why would he get hurt?
No, why would he block the shot? That's just silly. Nobody should do that.
When we specifically requested he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, that's all we said.
Of course, Brad, you say no one should block a shot. This guy's the biggest. He lives on the other team's blue line.
I block shots in beer league. I appreciate my goaltenders. I'm not laying down for one, but I'll get in the way.
No, but I mean, that's the kind of player Bird is, and good on him for laying out the body in the second game of the year, but unfortunate, of course, that it led to the injury. It wasn't his fault. It's just one of those freak things. But yeah, when we said injuries, AHL assignments, and maybe even, anything else like a trade is going to happen fast. Well, it happened fast. Second game, this looks to be Bertuzzi out for some time, and this is twofold in terms of impact on the Red Wings. One, even though I don't think he has any pressure on him because he's playing lights out, it keeps Soderblom a little bit more securely in the lineup. Two, this is Zadina's way in. It's really going to be Zadina, Suter, and Veleno kind of vying for that last spot until Ernie maybe starts to phase out or whatever else happens. But if Zadina was sitting on the outs and thinking, man, I just watched this team dominate against Montreal and I'm afraid of being the odd man out, this is his opportunity to come in and make the most of it. And the Red Wings will need him to, because I don't really think they're going to be elevating a bottom 6 forward to that top line spot.
Do they just plug Zadina in there?
That's what I was thinking.
I would lean more Vrana honestly.
But that line had a really good game yesterday. Do you tinker with that? My answer would be yes. Like I would personally move Vrana up and then slot Zadina in on that line. But I could see the logic in, hey, they're cooking. Let's just give Zadina a chance here on the top line because we know Larkin and Raymond are good enough to carry a line, and Zadina's good enough to not slow them down, at the very least. So I could be talked into this in a few different ways. I
think we'll see it in some amount over the next week or however long it takes, but I think he's got very complementary skills for that line, and he doesn't need to be the line driver. He just needs to distribute it or be the trigger man, which he's more than capable of doing both.
Honestly, the only line I don't touch right now is the Redwoods,
which is hysterical.
That is not something I thought I'd be saying.
3 days ago, we said that's probably the least certain line on the Red Wings.
I'm pretty sure last year we just wanted to fire the third and fourth lines into the sun.
Now we're talking about don't touch the third line.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at this lineup now, obviously coming into New Jersey, Bertuzzi, Larkin, Raymond, Vrana, Copp, Perron. Working under the pretext that Copp and Perron are settling into this team, Vrana's a great player to have with them because he can maximize an opportunity and really make sure he can elevate the results for that line, even if it's not a perfect game. Larkin and Raymond are great line mates for Zadina to have to make sure that he maximizes his opportunity. So I definitely see the makeup in that. It's really funny. You're either scratched 14th forward or on the first line, but it makes sense to me.
Counterpoint, that Lucas Raymond pass to Jacob Vrana for the goal yesterday.
And that's why I initially said Vrana. I'm like, that's just an overpowered line. Like, I love Bert on the first line, and I think he belongs on there. But, man, Vrana, Larkin, Raymond is, dangerous.
The one, because I know we're going to get asked, so I'll just bring it up now, is if this Bertuzzi injury is, weeks or months rather than, day to day.
I would imagine by the time people are listening to this, they've had news that that's actually the case.
Yeah, and my gut's telling me this is not going to be day to day. But this could impact a Bertuzzi trade because the Red Wings have looked very good through 2 games. If Bertuzzi's out long term and they don't miss a step, that would, in theory, make Yzerman more comfortable moving him and getting a pretty substantial return because the team is still performing. Now, the counterpoint to that is if the wheels on the bus start coming off,
which they did in previous seasons,
then that plays right into Bertuzzi's camp, saying, hey, you need him, and gestures at those string of games. So there is a dynamic at play with here yet, since I know, everybody, the Bertuzzi trade speculation has been rampant for 2 years now, and this is not going to help it. So, yeah, I will just say this could have some impact on both sides of this negotiation right now, depending which way it goes.
And I also think Yzerman is probably going to look at this and say, how am I going to give this guy long term? Which is absolutely what Bertuzzi wants, because it's what any player at this age and this juncture in their career would look for. He's like, how am I going to give him long term? It just seems to be he was out long term because of a very scary back injury, and then now, depending on what happens with his hand or forearm, again, it was a block shot, a freak thing. It could have happened to any player, but in terms of negotiations, what objectively makes sense and what can subjectively be used subjectively to help your case, those are 2 very different things. I think this is just yet another very complicated roadblock in this negotiation, which at its core was already going to be tough and is tough because we're in the season and there's no extension yet.
I think historically, players who miss significant games leading up to their big ticket contract negotiation don't make more money.
No, it definitely doesn't help.
I don't think he's going to make more money now that he's hurt. It's not going to be the argument, the Red Wings aren't playing well with Tyler Bertuzzi out. I think the bigger factor is that he's consistently injured and missing games, which means he's not going to make as much money. You just can't make more money being hurt all the time. Well, not all the time, but having significant injuries and not playing.
Yeah, and he played 68 last year, and the border stuff aside, he was relatively healthy.
Yeah.
But again, 9
and
the
then
season
he
before.
would make more money because he's healthy and producing and playing the majority of the games. But if you're going to have back injuries, that's a check against you.
And what Bertuzzi's definitely saying in that negotiating room right now is, not that there's a negotiation happening, I don't think there is, but what he'd say is, I laid out the body to block a shot. What do you want me to do? Like, that's exactly what you want me to do. It could have happened to any player. It's going to be messy.
Everybody else would do it too.
So that's going to be, I think you're both right. This is going to play into Yzerman's hand in terms of negotiation. There's very few players who can miss a lot of time and say, yeah, I want the exact same thing or even more than I was asking for. And you're right, Brad. This is going to be a referendum on how this new look Red Wings plays without Tyler Bertuzzi. I personally, I'm not optimistic. I think Bertuzzi is one of the most important players in this team. The Red Wings are certainly not better without him, but this is going to, fair or not, to either Bertuzzi or the Red Wings, this is going to play into the contract negotiations. This is going to play into term, money, and whether or not they even get there, and maybe if he's dealt. So I know people don't love the topic, but these are all very important pieces of context that are going to factor in now. One other thing is, we talked about, Zadina, is he going to be first or second line? Let's be honest here. There could be a world where Zadina gets slotted into the fourth line with either Suter or Veleno and Ernie, and Kubalik moves up to the top 6. And Kubalik has the kind of firepower where I think that'd be a very fair play.
Yeah, I mean, he did just score last game, and, we're talking like Zadina is definitely coming in. It might be Veleno coming back in. We don't know for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of options here. And, like I said earlier, I can be talked into just about any of them.
I would prefer to see Zadina get his look, but I have no problem if Lalonde says, all right, you're in with 2 capable players, but you're getting the same treatment as Soderblom. It's bottom 6, and you make the most of your opportunity, and you prove to me that you deserve to stay. If Zadina gets any more than that, I think that's gravy, being in the top 6, but he might have to find his way. Again, same as Veleno. Like, Veleno didn't have players to really elevate him in that first game, and that's probably part of the reason why he looked nervous.
Yeah, but where he's a centerman though, like, where is he going to move up the depth chart without injury or
that's fair.
A bad performance by the player, the centerman higher in the depth chart?
Yeah, he does have a taller task ahead of him.
Yeah, I think the wingers are a little bit more modular in terms of, I won't even talk about the third line. They're untouchable. I'm talking about
for now.
First and second line, like, I see more movement there, and I see Zadina being able to slot in there a lot better. Like, I don't know where Veleno would really go in the lineup in place. Like, I just don't understand how he would move up in the lineup right now.
It's going to be him and Suter playing musical chairs in the fourth line until one of a few things happen. Injury. Maybe they want to move Rasmussen back to the wing, which, again, very small sample size of 2 games, but doesn't look likely so far. Or Lalonde says, hey, I'm not seeing enough to put you in over Suter. I'm going to send you down to Grand Rapids where you're going to play consistently for a lot of minutes, and then you'll be up at the first given opportunity. Fun first 2 games, and I can't believe we are still talking about most of the Red Wings roster being so viable where we still have hard roster decisions.
There's still guys who are now on the injury list, but guys who've been on there before training camp. So there's still more roster decisions that need to occur.
It is a bummer though about Bertuzzi. Like, it's never good. You have to hope that whatever it is doesn't impact him long term. I know we just had a full conversation about, how does this factor into the contract negotiation or potential trade or his futures. At the end of it, you want to make sure that this isn't something that's going to be hanging over him for the rest of his career, like the back surgery is. You hope that whatever it is, he recovers quickly and cleanly from.
Yeah, hand type injuries are no bueno.
Oh man, they
can't play hockey, but more importantly, you can't golf. I would be devastated.
There's only a few good weeks left, I think. I know Michigan golf is gorgeous, but I think there's only a couple weeks left before the chill really sets in.
Yeah. Did you see Josh Allen's quote after the game today that Evan would have really appreciated?
No.
So they're like asking him something along the lines of, so how does it feel having a bye week after beating the Chiefs? And he's like, well, the bye week's nice because it gives me opportunities to enjoy hobbies like golf and golf.
So his second job. Because you can't enjoy golf passively. You can't enjoy golf at all. I don't really even like golf.
No, that's the whole point of it. Did you guys hear in the Devils game? This is the first, like the NHL, the season just started, and the Devils fans were chanting "Fire Lindy,"
and they booed him when they were announcing the coaching staff at the start of the game.
Dude, you're like Jack Hughes, who is arguably the most important player on your team, vouched for him to stay. It took a couple games for them to already try to kick him out the door.
Remind me what happened with the Devils season last year.
Their goaltending failed them, and they were way worse than they should have been.
And what happened in the game Saturday night?
Their goaltending failed them, and they lost a game that they by rights should have won.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a coaching problem to me.
He's probably saying, why don't you just be better at goaltending? And they're like, we can't. This is us. This is it.
He walks in, like with his whole family. He's like, these kids won't eat if you don't play better goalie.
See these children? They're going to start starving.
They don't eat till you make a save.
I feel as a neutral observer, like as a Red Wings fan, you're like, oh, hell yeah. Ned stole the game. The Red Wings converted when it matters. I don't care what the Corsi says or what the win-o-meter says. Like, the Red Wings won the game. That's hockey. But you're looking at it objectively. You're like, man, the Devils, I mean, okay, they ran into a hot goalie, but their goalie didn't even give him a chance to crack that hot goalie once. Like, if that was a 2-2 game till the end, then it would take just one break from Ned for New Jersey.
He didn't do a Ville Husso.
No, he didn't shut them out. I do think he had a very impressive performance, but New Jersey's goalie sank them. Like, it was 4-2 by the end of the second. I think that was killer. And yeah, it's fire Lindy. I'm like, what do you want Lindy Ruff to do? Granted, I don't know the intricacies of like what's going on in the organization and what roster and line decisions he's made. As you know, podcast hosts who have had our fair share of complaints about Red Wings coaches in the past, I understand how you can be upset with it. But in game 2, chanting
your home opener,
fire, that is if and when Lindy Ruff gets fired, because at this point, how is he not going to? It would take a massive turnaround, which actually I should take that back. I don't think it's out of this world.
If there's any team that has to take a step this year,
it's them.
It's them, because they've totally started to load it up and they're expecting big things from every key player.
But let's say Blackwood, Vanacek, and whoever else plays net doesn't save their skin and Ruff is fired. They're going to be playing that clip, and they're going to have to say this was in the second game of the season.
I felt so bad for Lindy Ruff. He looks so confused. Are they saying boo earns? I felt so bad. I was like, this is terrible. Like, even if you don't like the guy as your head coach, like,
man,
I was just sad for him. Like, that's cruel.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like we had a lot of runway before the Fire Blashill chance came out.
And I don't remember anyone when they announced Jeff Blashill where the whole arena just started booing him.
No.
Scumbags. New Jersey fans, scumbags.
Yeah. New Jersey fans,
who's their podcast? We have to fight them now. This one's for Lindy.
I was just going to say, New Jersey fans, you just got on Evan's shit list. After he's done fighting the entire Steve Dangle podcast, he's fighting you.
You're next, bud.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to fight people from Newark.
Me neither.
Yeah.
They're not fighting fair.
No. I think it's funny that we're already talking about this, but as you alluded, Toronto's goalie situation has already...
How could we have known the guy with a long laundry list of injuries gets injured?
Their goalie situation is already looking rough. Matt Murray hurt himself, correct me if I'm wrong, in practice.
Correct, yeah.
Is now out long-term on injured reserve.
The only thing I feel bad for is Matt Murray, because he's played so well, then got hurt, rediscovered his game, then got injured again. And it's like the Toronto of the year is supposed to be the year where it all comes back together. And he gets hurt literally after one start.
Yes, injury-prone goalie gets injured early in season after team banks on him. I felt bad. I don't know if you want me to play the audio of the one Steve posted after his first LFR, after Matt Murray's first start. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. I sent it to my friends, actually. It was very funny.
Yeah. You want me to?
Yeah.
Leafs Nation, welcome to another season of...
Things are going great in Toronto.
If anything, that's status quo.
I don't know how Steve has the lungs for that. Like, my voice would be... I could not do a podcast after doing an LFR. My throat would be torched. Like, he
How many blood vessels do you think he's popped?
He has none
on
left.
average.
He has
every
none left.
season?
He has whatever residual blood was left in his brain when the last vessel popped, and it's just cycling that over and over. That's science, folks. I have a degree in this. Just don't look it up. Trust me, that's how it works. But yeah, 2-3 games does not a season make, but it's off to a funny start for the Leafs.
It's off to a predictably funny start. Like, and they've won a game or two as well, but still, it's... Yeah, because I know Dubas was dealt a bad hand because, his plan A was thwarted by Yzerman. But
so you had no other plan. We're going to get Ville Husso. Other than that, we're out of ideas.
His
We're
plan
gonna
B
get
was
Ville Husso.
bad.
What am I doing for dinner? I'm going to go to bed now.
Yeah.
It's, man, I've defended a lot of what Dubas has done in the past, but this was the one that was confusing because, there weren't a lot of great goalie options on the market. But there were a lot of options. A lot of them would classify as good options. Hell, they had Jack Campbell. He was theirs. And they decided to trade for Matt Murray while having Ottawa only retain 25% on a 2-year contract. Well, at least with 2 years left. I actually didn't mind the bet on Ilya Samsonov. I felt like that was a smart bet. But it seems like they were giving Matt Murray the runway to be the starter. So, in kind of a morbid way, this could be the best thing that happens to the Leaf this season, because if Samsonov takes the crease now and performs well, they almost get out of the Matt Murray experiment before it even starts.
Yeah, the biggest question mark with Samsonov, which has been his MO the entire time, is consistency. He's only had 2 games so far this season, and I thought he looked good the other night. So the jury's still out, but my God, being a Leafs fan is like living on the edge every single minute of existence for the past 50 years.
And as a neutral observer, it is peak entertainment.
We're not neutral observers.
Neutral. As a very, very biased hater, it's just wonderful.
Some other notes. Red Wings fans will notice that the captain C and alternate captain A's have switched back to the side of the jersey. If you're the player wearing it, on the right side of the chest above the wheel, on the winged wheel, which has 2 wings, yet again, in case you didn't know. The letters are a little smaller, which people don't love. Right now, there's no jersey ad on there, and I know there's something circulating about like how it's because the winged wheel sweater is...
Are we going to drop the big news?
Yeah. Winged Wheel Podcast. Yeah, no.
Yeah. We're the sponsor. That's our space.
We're a few patrons away from that. And people are very happy that there's no sponsor yet. And likewise, I'm very happy there's no jersey sponsor yet. And there's something going around that it's like, because the Red Wings sweater is sacred, et cetera, et cetera.
No jersey is sacred.
We can all be happy as long as there isn't an ad on there. I would just say don't get married to that. I would imagine that there will be something at some point.
A cheese bag.
Yeah. Again, if we ever have like a mysterious billionaire listening to the show and he wants to give us a massive endowment, we will buy that ad space and we will leave it blank. That's our promise to you, which we will never have to cross that bridge, because I don't think very many. We have the only billionaire who listens to this show is Emmett, and he doesn't even listen.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's more so because I don't want to hear my own voice.
Yeah.
If you could just like mute that and you needed me to listen to a part, I could do that. But
some episodes it's not too hard.
That's true. That's very true.
Sorry, that was a little blow on you.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay.
There's a hairline joke coming in 3, 2. You don't. No, please don't.
I don't need to low blow on stuff like that. I might punch Brad in the face. Sorry, Brad.
I do accept that. That's fair punishment.
I'm so sorry. One thing I wanted to ask is, does anyone know how much companies have paid for those sponsorship spots on the jersey? I'm pretty sure the long-term ones have exceeded $10 million, but yeah, we're gonna need a few more subscribers.
A few more subscribers, but that's over the course of the entire contract. I think some of them are in like the $2 million range, give or take, but it's very much going to depend on the market, how much of the allotted
national
space
games,
that they use,
all that stuff.
Like Columbus is going to be able to charge way less than
$50.
Colorado. Yeah, we're probably halfway to being able to afford Columbus's. And
there's an idea. Forget buying ad space on the Red Wings jersey.
Arizona Coyotes.
Let's buy ad space on Arizona's jersey and just put the Red Wings logo there.
They might be able to get another chair for their locker room. Their goalie will be able to sit while getting dressed.
Is that a real thing?
No.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if there was like the arena thing is a whole gong show, so I wasn't sure if that was a real thing. That's how low the bar has gotten here.
I was going to say.
Because I don't know if that's a joke.
Because it's not so crazy. Yeah, so that's where it's at. Although very quickly here, before we jump into overtime, nice to see Mo with the A. Even if it's just for a game, because they're cycling through alternate captains. So, you see Copp, you see Perron get the A's, but, in game 2, you saw Mo with the alternate captain, and that was cool. It didn't take long.
Anyone who's gotten it, I have not been surprised in the least.
We had a jersey winner a while back, and I believe it was right after Mo got drafted, or maybe the year after. And whenever we hand out a jersey, and by the way, we're drawing for a Soderblom jersey tonight, we let them pick whatever name and number they want on the back. And he wanted a Mo Seider jersey, but this was before Seider made the Red Wings, so he didn't know for sure what the number would be. And he's like, "Can I get a Seider 53 with an A on front?" And I was like, as long as you know, it's on you if it doesn't transpire that way. He's like, "No, absolutely." Jersey stock was very limited. It was actually super hard to source, so he ended up going with the Zadina jersey. But he tagged us today. He was like, "Here's a screenshot. I was right." I'm like, "Yeah, man, you called it. Good for you." All right. We are going to jump into overtime on this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, which is proudly brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast if you want to support the show. We had a lot of people come up to us and say, they love the show and what's the best way to support us. Honestly, this is it. This is how we're able to do things like host Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the LCA. It's how we're able to front the costs for those custom runs of the Mickey Redmond Special Edition flannels. It's how we're able to put on, events and initiatives that ultimately raise a lot more money for the Jamie Daniels Foundation, which is a fantastic cause. So your support, thank you all so much. And for those of you who are part of the Dub Club, thank you. Some benefits of being a Winged Wheel Podcast patron: access to the Discord, giveaways. We are giving away 2 tickets to every Red Wings home game this season, and the majority of them are going to patrons. So right now we have a giveaway going on for the Monday night Kings game, and there's plenty more. So again, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast. All right, we are going to start with some comments and questions from our patrons. Zachary Rogers says, "Hey guys, 2-0 to start the season. Besides Soderblom, who is, in your opinion, the most surprising player on the roster right now? By the way, go Blue." Most surprising, it's early, but I kind of want to say Sundqvist. It's not like a big impact, like he's kicking the door down, and I think this is like a top 6 player kind of thing. But for a guy who missed preseason, didn't really see game action, and probably has every reason to not be in game shape, I appreciated what he brought to that line. And if not Sundqvist, then it's just a continuation of being really, really happy with Michael Rasmussen's play.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to clarify this because I'm going to give a different answer depending on it. Are we talking biggest surprise relative to last season or biggest surprise relative to the last 3 weeks?
Answer however you want.
Okay, relative to last season?
Yeah.
Rasmussen.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously Rasmussen. We thought his days as a center, despite his improvements last year, were cooked. We kind of understood what his limitations were, and he's worked through some of those. And here he is, the center of a very, very successful third line. So I'll say him.
I'll say Robert Hagg. I don't think he's been drowning out there, which is an absolute relief.
He keeps getting hit by pucks.
Yeah, he's got to stop doing that. I think he lost a tooth last night, which obviously probably didn't feel great. But from where we've come from over the past 5 years for bottom-pairing defensemen, this is a welcomed addition.
See what I mean? Don't block shots.
That's right.
I'm telling you. Yeah, no, but Robert Hagg, surprisingly competent.
Any aspiring NHL forwards who are listening to this podcast, do not listen to Brad.
Hey, I blocked one last night, and I still got a Charlie horse from it.
Maybe Ryan will let you borrow his shot blockers.
The big plastic ones that don't even mold to the skates.
I wore them for one tournament. It's because they had a kid. It's like that awkward age where like half the kids have hit puberty twice and then the other half haven't hit it once.
One guy's got a mustache and then the other ones are still 8 years old looking.
Yeah, that was exactly it. And this kid would just shoot. He wouldn't even shoot all the time. He would shoot at the opposing team's players because he knew he'd hurt them. And it was me. I'm opposing team's players. So I had shot blockers and big shin pads for that tournament.
Jesus Christ.
Big shin pads. And remember, he doesn't pull them over the tongue of his skate. So imagine how that felt.
It's like a couple pillows were stuffed in there.
Hey, we won. We beat them in the gold medal game. Medium Chungus says, a few episodes ago, Brad said that it would be progressive for a team to have a fourth line that was a scoring line as part of his explanation as to why scorers like Zadina wouldn't wind up there. My question is, why not have 4 scoring lines? When Team Canada is building a roster with its plethora of scoring talent, they don't worry about having a checking line. Is it simply a matter of us not having the complementary talent for such a line, or am I misunderstanding something here?
Doesn't Canada almost historically always have a checking line?
Yes, 2 things there. Evan's right. Team Canada is absolutely guilty of that. They are so backwards and old school when it comes to that. So
Friend of the show, Chris Draper.
They win gold medals. I can't blame them for it.
Yeah,
I think it works.
I love Chris Draper. He's one of my favorite players of all time, and obviously he's great at his job now. But he was on a Canadian Olympic team. Just think about that. But also, I don't agree with not having a fourth line scoring line if you are capable, if you have enough talent to be able to do it. I was just saying NHL teams just don't do that. Like, I would love our fourth, like if Bertuzzi wasn't hurt and our fourth line was Suter, Zadina, Kubalik, sign me up. I'm fully on board. As long as the asterisk here is you have to have 4 lines though that are capable defensively. At the very least 3, because someone has to go out there against the other team's scoring lines. Someone has to do it. Someone has to take that hit. But yeah, if you are capable of, you know, rolling 4 waves of scoring threats, you absolutely should. But the NHL as a whole, I'm not talking about specific coaches or whatever right now, but by and large, is not progressive. They will not do it. And it will be a long time before, if at all, before it becomes commonplace.
I'm going to jump forward a few questions here because I completely forgot to bring something up that Elmer Soderblom did. It was at the end of the New Jersey game. So the comment here is from Ryan's receding hairline. The comment is, did anyone else see when Elmer Soderblom and Dougie Hamilton hit the boards behind the Jersey net? I thought the boards were going to collapse. Before that, near the end of the game, Soderblom came in on Dougie Hamilton down the right side, pulled the puck, did the old dipsy doodle, pulled the puck from behind between his legs. Dan actually got around Hamilton and got the scoring chance. Didn't turn into a goal, but got the scoring chance, dancing around, despite his poor year last year. A fantastic defenseman. And then Hamilton, who's no slouch, he's huge, the size of like 2 Brad Criscos, went to go hit Soderblom, and it was a big collision, but bounced off the boards. And yeah, aside from the whole building shaking in Newark, Hamilton fell down. That play from Soderblom was wild. The confidence to do that in your second game
against Dougie Hamilton.
Like, that wasn't even the first time. You talked about something earlier, Brad. He pulled the puck between his legs and in the prior game. Like, he's not afraid to make those dangles. Again, at 6'8". And there has been some speculation as to whether it's 6'8", and I'm fairly certain it is, because he stands next to other people who are 6'6", and he's decidedly taller than him. So it's just an experience watching Soderblom. Did you see how often the camera panned to his parents, who look like movie stars?
Yes.
Why is everyone from Sweden ultra attractive? It's cold in Sweden.
Yeah, well, when the Vikings pillaged.
Yeah. There's some historical nuance and context there.
I have no idea if it's true, but it's the only explanation I can think of, because you saw them and you're like, oh my God. You legitimately look like action stars, both of you. Anyhow. Okay, let's jump to our next question here. And man, this is one that probably deserves a whole episode topic. Coyote season tickets in Tempe says, what's the over-under timeline for the league and networks to agree that digital advertising on the boards needs to go the way of Fox Track's glowing puck?
Honestly, I feel like I don't even need to talk about this, because this is in a very divisive world on just about everything.
They've all come together.
The hockey world has come together and unanimously decided these are atrocious and they need to go.
I don't know. Like, I completely agree. They're bad and they're being overused. Like, the deployment is bad. The changing during the middle of play is bad.
In the advertisement that moves is bad. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was horrible.
They don't add motion blur to the ads for obvious reasons. So it hurts your eyes and your eyes get distracted trying to naturally track the puck. It's a terrible experience visually. It's a terrible experience in terms of how it works dynamically. Everyone hates it. Even the biggest water carriers for the NHL are saying no, this sucks. And Brad, I still don't know if the NHL will turn down the money for them.
No, they're absolutely not going to. Well, here's the problem, and the one point that nobody's really brought up yet, that is the unfortunate side of this. The NHL has probably already collected the money on these. The contracts are signed, the agreements are in place, and they're not about to piss off their advertisers by backing out of it now. So will this come back next season? Probably, but maybe not. But for the rest of this season, barring something, shocking, we're going to have to deal with it.
The NHL isn't big enough of a revenue generator to renege on these types of contracts. If it was the NFL or basketball, they'd be like, sorry guys, like we're changing how we're doing this. If you can stay in this contract. If you don't, someone else is going to fill it. And that's very still true of the NHL, but I don't see them flexing that muscle like those other leagues would.
It's less about that, because I wouldn't be surprised if there is a provision in the contract to say, like, there's a test period and we have to see how this is received, and if it's catastrophic, then we'll pull it out. I
really appreciate your optimism for the NHL to do things correctly.
Yes.
I
skipped past that part, Ryan, because it's the NHL.
But what I think will ultimately keep them in place, and I hope I'm wrong, who doesn't see this? The players on the ice. Who wants to clear their escrow debt to the owners as quick as possible? The players on the ice. They are not going to give a single shit about whether or not there are digitally imposed ads on the TV. They might feel for the fans, like the more compassionate players might feel for the fans, but at the end of the day, this is quite honestly affecting their paycheck. And they're going to say, yeah, you do what you need to do. We're going to vote in lockstep with the NHL. So if change is going to come, it's going to have to come from the NHL. And even me, the ultimate optimist, is not. I just don't know that they're going to pull away that revenue.
The one thing I am curious to kind of keep my eye on, because every once in a while you see this, I don't know what to call it, like altruistic marketing or like, good PR, where there could be a company that says, okay, we have one of these contracts. We're going to keep our ads stationary for this game. You're welcome, guys. Look at how great we are. We're giving you what you wanted.
Yeah, they buy all 60 minutes.
And that company, Enron.
If it's the Winged Wheel podcast, we're just going to get the party parrot, like all techno colors changing, but we're only going to buy ads for Toronto games. So it's just going to piss off Toronto fans. We're going to just sink our own popularity. They're going to tank us, but it's going to be hysterical.
No, you just got to find something like outdated and annoying and everything. So like just, I don't know.
Brad.
For the full 60 minutes of the game, you remember, what is it, Neon Cat just circling the rink?
Oh my God.
With the rainbow coming out of its ass?
Okay.
I'm here for this.
Okay. The NHL will do anything for money at this point. If some like mega billionaire gives them like 10x the value of those ads, but it's Neon Cat just circling.
We need Wall Street Bets to actually win a stock purchase for once, and they would do it.
Yeah, it's not a good time over there.
The worst thing for this whole thing is clearly they didn't play test this.
Sure they did, and they went terribly, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that.
We've come up with no ideas, and we're all out of them.
Yeah. Anyhow, there's going to be more on that for sure. Steven, or actually, let's start with Hockeytown Racing Academy. Says, what hot take do you have right now that isn't necessarily an overreaction?
Leafs missed the playoffs.
That's an overreaction.
Okay. Oops. Not an overreaction. That's right.
My after 2 games, my one hot take from our Hot Takery Patreon episode seems to be looking all right, which was our Red Wings goalie's getting Vezina votes.
What's the award for the best tandem?
Jennings.
Yeah. That might be a very distinct possibility this year.
Yeah. My hot take that isn't necessarily an overreaction. Soderblom plays all 82, barring injury.
Medium take. Yeah. Soderblom wins Rookie of the Year back-to-back for the Red Wings.
Get Hart.
Yeah.
Hart winner.
Yeah. Not an overreaction. Stephen Fagan says, even though it's just a few games into the season, what teams have had the most intriguing starts, good or bad, in your opinions? And how many games need to be played before some teams start to hit the panic button?
Aren't the San Jose Sharks like 0-4-0 right now?
As expected.
I mean, nobody was expecting them to be good, but like this bad is really bad. Minnesota, just for their goaltending, is probably pretty concerned right now.
That's mine.
New Jersey.
Through 2 games, Minnesota has let in 14 goals.
I think LA has not won either, which is
LA is also LA is 1-2-0.
Okay, well, still the expectations are high for that team. Another team that is expected to take a step, and it's not been a great start for them yet.
I mean, the New Jersey Devils are what, 0-2, and have allowed 10 goals to the Detroit Red Wings and Philadelphia Flyers. They're chanting to fire their coach, guys.
Yes.
At the home opener.
Yeah, New Jersey, I'm a lot more want to say I'm a little concerned. LA, I don't know, it's early. Minnesota with the amount of goals, yes. Vegas, on a positive note, Vegas coming out 3-0 is huge considering how they ended last season and all the questions about their year.
And it's not just that they're 3-0. They look good getting to 3-0. Well, there are no flukes there.
It's easy to forget they're a good team, right? Like, that's a team comprised of a pretty good roster, and I understand that they've had their lumps, some of them, a lot of them, their own doing, but they have the goalie questions, but they have Jack Eichel, So it's still early. None of these are hard declarations, but yeah, definitely interesting storylines. Question here from our good friend Lars Thorzel, or Lars, the prophet of the Towering Behemoth, says, are you still worried about Lord Elmer's skating?
I was never really worried about it. I still wouldn't call it good. Like, you could say good for a guy his size, but not compared to NHL average. But I mean, it was never a big part of his game, so it's not like we were saying if his skating doesn't improve, he's never going to make it. We talked about the Redwoods line as a whole, but it applies to him specifically. We know how they're going to succeed, and they don't need to be elite skaters to do that. They just need to be good enough.
This one I should have read out last episode. Cody Stark said, sad week for Starko. After 14 years of beer league hockey, I've decided to hang the pads, mask, and skates up. Hips feel like someone bashed them in with a sledgehammer while I was sleeping. Every Wednesday from November to March for the last 14 years, driving 100 miles round trip to Grand Forks through blizzards and negative 30 temps, blood, sweat, tears, so many bush lights. I'd like to thank God and Evan. Most talented individual to score on me all of those years was Brock Nelson. Least talented, my friend Mikey, who was my defenseman and ruined my shutout with 10 seconds left by purposely scoring on our own net. F you, Mikey. Cheers, boys.
Those are always the fun ones where the goalie's getting irritated in the middle of a game when you have a lead, so you just turn around and clap one on him. Yeah. I've done that a couple times.
Last question here. This is from Elite First Scoring Line, Scott Durk, Sleeve McDykel, and Bobson Dugnut. Thank you, Joseph. Says, give us your Zadina predictions. What's it going to be for this guy 1 year from now? Don't ask me.
He's under contract for 2 more after this one, so I'll say status quo, unfortunately.
My annoying Ryan, shut the hell up, fetch isn't happening take is he has worked himself into the second power play unit, middle six, and has found a niche as a somewhat dependable 20 goal scorer. My pessimistic, I am worried that I have to finally let go of this fantasy take, is that in a year he's part of a trade. Maybe not right away, but at some point. I hope the optimism pays off, but it needs to come through this year.
He could be a 20 goal scorer and be traded.
That's true.
It could be a combination of both of those.
And then finally, we got to figure out the name of the Rasmussen Sundqvist Soderblom line. Is it the Redwood line, the Sequoia line, the Mammoth line, the Three Towers, 3 Brad Crisco's in a trench coat?
You chose to read this one out.
I did, yeah. Yeah, a lot of these have to be Patreon exclusive readouts. Redwood line, I like the Triple XL line. I think the Redwoods is cool.
I don't really get it other than Red Wings.
Redwoods is a really big goddamn tree, man.
Big tree, Evan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was like, Redwoods.
This man probably graduated with the most honors of the three of us when he got his degree. I just want everyone to know that on paper.
I don't even need to say that. This guy has probably bounced 1 billion golf balls off of redwood trees in his life.
We're 13 minutes to my bedtime. Brain is shutting down.
Oh, that's fair. All right. It's Evan's bedtime. We have to record the Patreon exclusive. Folks, thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope everyone had a great first weekend of the new Red Wings season. Red Wings hockey is back and it feels good. If you're looking to support the show, patreon.com/wingedwheel podcast, and be sure to get your Winged Wheel podcast night at the LCA tickets at detroitredwings.com/WWP. We'd like to thank all of our listeners and our name level sponsors on Patreon. Arjun Shankar, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Ache Fur, Ryan's Receding Hairline, Nick Perks, Terry Driver, the number 69, crying Ryan Hanna's been in a slam at Jamathong. Matthew M. Rice, Croner's left knee, Ben Hurd, Brad Crisco, the buttery male. Crisco spelt like the, oil. Brandon M., Carl Bertina Nanalewski, Chimmy, Chris Ball, Chris P., Citizen High Five, Connor Scovey, Coyote Season Tickets in Tempe, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Elite First Scoring Line, Scott Dork, Sleeve McDykel, and Bobson Dugnut, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Kalen Wood, Kevin James, King Tone, Marcus, Matt McKay, Nedeljkovic, goalie number 1, Nicholas Fritz, R.A., Ryan Hanna, the Unshowered, Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, the Podcasting Couch, Zachary Rogers, General Andy Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, Sam Bankson, Ace of Base frontman Jonas Berggren, Adam, I wish I could finish like Ernie, Adam Rose, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog is a Stanley Cup champion, Ben Barron, Brian Vasha, Connor Leightonen, Darren Fick, Dave W., Disciple of Lars, the Prophet of the Towering Behemoth, Philip Zadiz Nuts, James Laporte, Jeffrey Dun Dun Dun, Jeremiah Dobo, JM Rhapsody, John Evans, John Ingalls, who I believe is I already called that out, newer name level sponsor, Josh Yeltsin, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Linda Hull. Linda, thank you so much. It was great to meet you in person. Logan Burgos, Matt S., Maximilian, me, Philip Zadina's confidence in the flesh. We need you, buddy. Medium Chungus, Melissa Erickson, Ophelia, Papa Woody, and Thick Rick. Thank you all so much. We'll talk to you Wednesday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockeytown Evan.